Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Greater Manchester Stories. This episode's guest is a returning guest, Rob Kellner. First of all, welcome, Rob, back to the show.
Thanks, Nick, for having me. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
Last time we had a chat about why you're living in Greater Manchester, why you made it your home, the positives, the differences, and that was a really good chat we had. But this time I want to talk about something you told me about a couple of years ago, which was you was at a pub once having a conversation, an open conversation with friends in a pub, a legal conversation, and the police turned up because somebody phoned the police. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, Nick. So it was a couple of Novembers ago. I was with some guys in a pub in Stretford, Greater Manchester, and we were sitting around in a circle, talking, laughing, talking about politics, talking about sports, talking about all kinds of stuff. And we weren't drunk, and we weren't loud, we weren't breaking anything. We're just chatting.
And that's exactly what pubs are for.
That was my understanding too, and that's this is a pub culture country, and what else are you going to talk? What else are you going to be talking about? That kind of thing. And this was after the COVID, the lockdowns, and everything had gotten open again, and people were getting back to normal. And so we were talking, and I like to talk politics. I like to talk about stuff, and I was the only non-British guy there, and we were talking about the masks at the time. They had just basically stopped the masks, and I was being critical of that. And we were talking about 9/11, that in the sense that how it changed me and how all that kind of stuff. We were just it was just general stuff. No profanity, nothing. We weren't bashing anyone, nothing. And the pub was relatively empty. There was a couple sitting about 10 feet away, and there was a pool table, but the music wasn't loud. So you could hear what people were talking. And what I didn't know at the time is that somebody, I think it was that couple, they, like you had said before, they called the police because they were offended by something that we were saying or whatever. So instead of saying something to us or walking to the bar and telling the manager, hey, these guys or whatever, they chose to call the police. And we didn't know any of that. And some of us had left, and I had left, and I got a call at home, about an hour after I got home, and one of the guys I was with, he said, Rob, the police just left. I said, the police just left where or what? And he said, after you left, there were only a couple of us left, and we were getting ready to leave. And the police walked in. They saw him walking in, and they went over to the bar, and they came over to us and said, "Were y'all with a group of guys earlier?" And they said, "Yeah." And they said, "What were you talking about?" And my friends were like, "Are we in trouble?" No, but what were you talking about? And they're like, "What?" They couldn't believe it, and they were asking for their names and numbers and stuff. And my friends smartly refused. They said, "Are we in trouble? Have we broken the law?" No, but basically what they said was somebody called the police to say that they were offended by what we were saying. And two of the things that the police had said was, one of them was about 9/11, and one of them was about the masks. And my friend said to the police, he said, "Oh, that was our American friend who was talking about that." So you see how quickly my friends were ratting me out.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I know I got to pick a better class of friends, I guess. But basically, that because we don't know what they told the police to make them come, but this was a Saturday night in Greater Manchester, and are you going to tell me that some guy sitting around a pub is worthy of a visit from two police officers on a Saturday night with everything that goes on in this city, good, bad, and otherwise?
That's the most shocking part of this is on a Saturday night, we can afford to send two police officers to a pub for men having a conversation in a pub. Well, let me tell you this, if you were planning another 9/11, you wouldn't be planning it in a pub where people can hear you. And they talked about masks. Well, it's okay to criticize government policy on masks. We all did it. I did it. I don't understand why well, I understand why someone reported you, because we have free speech totalitarians in this country now who don't want people to say certain things. It's a hate crime, it's offensive, and we need to clamp down on those people because they're going to take our rights away. But how can we afford two police officers to visit some men in a pub to say, what were you talking about? For someone who's worked in police stations and trained police officers, honestly, I don't know where those resources came from that.
Well, when my friend told me about that, I was in shock. I honestly was in shock. And I said to him, I said, 9/11, we were talking about 9/11, but I specifically was talking about 9/11 in the sense how it brought Americans together, that we had been such a divided country and that the country really came together because of the nature of what had happened. So I was speaking about it in a positive way. So I don't know. I can't. So anyway, what happened was is that when he told me that, I was in shock, and I thought I'm not going to live in a country where this is okay. So that next week, I went to the police station and filed a complaint against the police. And I was trying to get a copy of the police report, and I was going to file a complaint against the people that filed a complaint against us because it just didn't seem right. And when I told the police officer that was in charge, he was in shock. He said, "We don't live in the old Soviet Union." I said, "Yes, sir. I know. I know." So it started a whole chain reaction of events and which have never really been truly resolved. But I told them, I said, I was raised where you support the police. If anything happens, and I want to make sure that that's the country we still live in, that the police are there to protect us, not to come after us. So,
This sounds very similar to East Germany and Soviet Russia, where there would be spies everywhere listening to private conversations and then reporting you for wrongthink, for talking about the government in a negative way. And we don't live in that country. We've never had a Gestapo here or a checker, we don't want that. England has always been free men, and that's how it needs to remain. And
well, look,
for that, go on, sorry.
oh no, I was going to say is I don't want people to thinking, oh my God, they came and roughed us up, and we felt, it wasn't on the that level of what you're speaking about. So I wasn't psychologically damaged, and had to lock myself in my house or anything like that. But one of the things that did shock me was when I told some of my pals what I was doing, and I had gone to the police and filed a plate and was very visible and had done some had been interviewed about it very publicly and coming forward. One of the things that shocked me the most was my friends who said, "Rob, aren't you afraid?" And I said, "Afraid of what?" And afraid that the police will come after you if you go after them. And I said, "No, I am not afraid. I am not afraid." That again, that's how they get away with things. If something's not right, let's come together and fix it. But if you are, I couldn't believe the fear of Manchester police. I that was very foreign to me. And if that's where we are in this country, that's not a good place to be.
No, absolutely. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think people should be afraid of the police in this country. There's no reason to be afraid, even though they're going down the wrong path very slowly. We're not at a stage where you should be afraid of the police. What we need to do, and what these conversations are about, is about fixing the police. Hence why I'm running for mayor. I want to fix the police. The police are not our enemy. They're public servants, and we pay their wages, and we demand a better service of the police. And this is one example where they're failing. And as well as mayor, to go back to this original story, What I'm going to do, if I may, is I'm going to set up a free speech charter for Greater Manchester based on existing law, because the mayor can't make up new laws, only Parliament can do that. But I'm going to get very clever people, like the Free Speech Union, some free speech barristers, and we're going to go through the existing laws and we're going to pull out our rights from those laws, and we're going to bullet point them, and we're going to advertise them on the mayor's website saying these are your rights in the UK, meaning Greater Manchester. And if your boss tells you to do something or say something you don't want to do, well, there's a law against that. Tell him the law. If the police turn up at a pub and start questioning you, Google the mayor's website and look at the free speech charter and go, excuse me, officer, you're not allowed to be asking me these questions in this circumstance. That's what I'm going to do as mayor to protect our free speech. Because if we don't, the slippery slope will start taking some of those small rights away, which then lead to the bigger rights disappearing as well. We're nowhere near that yet, but I'm going to make sure we never get anywhere near that.
Well, I think that's so important, and I support you wholeheartedly in that. And this country has an amazing history and brought us so many of the rights, the Magna Carta and so many of the rights that what the American rights are based on the British, and it would be beyond criminal if that devolved into chaos or something like that. I, I I wanted to say to those police, and I wasn't there when the police actually came, but the simple thing that I would say to those two officers is, officers, are you proud of what you're doing right now? Is this what you were trained for? It,
Or are you just following orders? Because we've heard that one before.
yeah, and again, the cops, listen, I'm a big supporter and I see them outside, and I'll go up and shake their hands and thank them. And when I see a police officer and they're doing something and I have a chat with them, whether I agree with them or not, I will go up and say, listen, I know y'all have a difficult job, a very difficult job, and they have to make the tough choices and decisions and this and that, and it's important for us to support them and know the community support them, but you won't have community support when you are questioning people just living their lives and having normal conversations. That's not the way to go.
No, the problem isn't the officers on the beat. They are doing what they're being instructed to do by the senior management. It's the senior management level that, if I'm mayor, I'm going to get a grip on, because it all comes from them, and we need to stop that. Let's end with one simple question for you.
Sure.
What would your advice be to anybody who finds himself in a situation similar to yours?
I hope that it's not happening all around us. But if they were, one thing that I would turn on your camera. I would film everything to protect yourself, and that you can see what's going on, because the light, what's the phrase? Light is the best disinfectant. And if people see, if there are abuses going around, and again, not looking for them, but if something if I had been there, now it's easy to look back, but if I had been there, the first thing I would have done would have been turning on my camera and just taking that information and letting folks see what's going on, and then you put that in the media, and maybe there's a little embarrassment or something where you recognize, oh, right, where maybe some folks didn't know that was going on. You can see that and go, that's not what the police are about. That's not good policing. Let's go catch those guys who are breaking in the house. Let's focus on solving some crimes and all of that, instead of policing someone's free speech. Yeah, that's where I'd go with that. Yeah.
I agree. Our public services, we need to shame some of our public services better, because that's how they will get better, by publicly shaming them. That's one of the ways I've always tried to improve those services. Rob, thank you very much for coming back on, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
All right, Nick, it's always a pleasure.
Bye bye.